4:48 and a little bit of change on this 420 Thursday in the heart of the Riverbend. Taralei Griffin joining me now. Man, how great is Al Womack? That was a great conversation. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at this interviewing business here.
You are.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. I don't know. Today is 420, as you guys know, and Taralei Griffin has been joining us once a month to talk cannabis education. And it's your time to thrive today on this Thursday in downtown Alton. So we're talking consumption methods today. And there's quite a few different ways that I don't think that, especially maybe the older generation, knows about yet that really could be beneficial because, honestly, not a lot of people like smoking in general.
Oh, yeah. No, there's multiple different ways. First, I just want to say, though, thank you, CJ, for giving me the late spot on the show today on this most holy of days for stoners. So just appreciate that.
No
Good
problem.
Looking out.
Got you covered. Got you covered.
But yeah, no, there's so many more ways to consume cannabis than smoking, whether you want to do it to get high or whether you want to use it medicinally. There's so many different ways to use it. So
can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Not to cut you off. I have been talking to a lot of past clients of mine from the delivery company that were maybe in their maybe 60s, 70s, and they're using the creams and the CBD lotions for their joints, their arthritis, and all this stuff, and they're seeing a hell of good results. I mean, just tons of them.
Oh yeah, no, those are great options. So that's actually a really good method to start with is topicals. So
is that what you call? I didn't know that. I thought it was just lotion.
Yeah, no. So topicals kind of covers any sort of something you would rub on your skin.
Okay.
So it'd be lotions, balms, massage oils, stuff like that. Even like bath bombs or something, I guess, would kind of be included in that. So it's something that's going on your skin, but it's not. That's something that's a big misconception. A lot of people think that whether you're using a THC cream or like a CBD one, that it's still getting into your system, but it's not.
Really?
Because it doesn't. Yeah. The only way that happens is if it's a transdermal. So that would usually just be in a patch form. And so you can get transdermal patches at the dispensary and stuff, and those will get you high. But if you're using just a cream or something, that's not transdermal. It's just a topical. So like you can use a THC cream on your skin for pain. As long as it's not transdermal, it won't show up in a drug test or anything
Well,
either.
that's good.
It's not going to get you high. It's just pain relief.
That's actually really good information because how many people still go, CJ, I think, these segments are great, but I can't consume because I have to, my work doesn't allow it, the insurance, whatever it is. This is a great option for somebody that has those requirements that can slap that little bit of lotion or topical material on.
Yeah.
And you're good to go.
Right. And that's, we even sell a CBD balm at Moondrops, and it's really helpful. I use it on my lower back all the time, and it's so helpful for like when my arthritis flares up or something. And it, but we get so many people coming in and asking like, oh, can I use this? Are you sure you use isolates? Because they're still worried about it getting into their system. And I keep reminding them like, yes, we do only use isolates at Moondrops, but it's also still not going to get into your system if you're using the topical.
Right. Well,
yeah.
And too, I was going to ask you about, by the way, did you see your boss on the show the other day?
Oh, I missed that. Oh, no. Sorry, Caleb.
Caleb, you're getting a clip sent to you today. Ow. Wow, tough crowd.
I missed that.
All righty. Well, it's okay. Whatever. I'm just giving you crap. And Ellen, you better call Caleb. You were so great on CJ's show 2 weeks ago. I forgot to tell you that.
I'll say that when I see him in the shop today. That's, yeah.
So for the folks at home that haven't realized this, in Illinois, last year, $1.6 billion with a B dollars in adult use cannabis sales, not medical, adult use cannabis sales, including $479 million, or about 30% of the overall sale, out of state residents. So a lot of money being generated from this. Now, still a lot of potholes out there, but we'll get to that. What do you make of this? I mean, to me, does it just kind of reassure to you that the stereotype of, or the stigma is starting to kind of go down a little bit, or is this something that's been there all along?
I think it's I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think it's been there for quite a while, but I do think there is more of a destigmatization happening now that it's legal in more places. I mean, we have more than half the states have some form of legalization now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it is becoming more and more normalized, but I do think there's still been this kind of need for this and want for this for a long time.
Oh, without a doubt. And so I just saw that statistic and thought, wow, how interesting. You know, we got the last year data back, and it, you know, pretty promising for the, you know, the industry. But with that being said, we just talked topicals. What is your preferred method of consumption?
Personally, I prefer smoking.
Okay.
Which, you know, I think I've said on the show before, like, I didn't start smoking until I was 25.
And that's a big takeaway, too, because I think some folks think, oh, well, they're just, you know, stoners since they were teenagers or in middle school. A lot of that really isn't true.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very diverse range of people who use cannabis. So it's I think I've been surprised since I started smoking and kind of realized just how many people around me were using it, and I didn't even know, you know. So it's funny. I do think it's yeah.
You know what's funny? I had to go up. One of my first guests was a Sin Collinsville. And they were talking about their golf tournament. So he goes, hey, stop back up here. And, you know, I want to hear a little bit more about your show. So I walk up there, or didn't walk. I drove up there, walk in. I cannot begin to tell you how many collared shirts and suits I saw in that line.
Yep.
Not what I was expecting at all. I'm telling you, it's like seriously, Wall Street let out and they all went to Collinsville.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's I used to work at a Sin in Collinsville.
Yeah.
I used it it was amazing, the wide range. But also, you know, you go into a Sin, you go into most dispensaries, and it looks more like an Apple store nowadays, you know,
does.
than you know, like some sort of fancy, you know. So it's not necessarily, you know, I think a lot of people, they just need to get through the door of their local dispensary too and see like, hey, this isn't necessarily what you've been thinking this whole time. So
It's true.
yeah,
It's true.
but yeah, no, I said smoking is my favorite way of consuming. Personally, so there are many different ways you can smoke, you know. There's, of course, rolling a joint, packing a bowl, a pipe, bongs. And then there's also now there's the waxes and all, the concentrates that you heat and melt and inhale that smoke. And
Those are for professionals, though.
yes,
Okay,
those
listen.
are... Do not start with those. Actually, that's something, if you're new to cannabis, I wouldn't even recommend starting with a vape. They're very convenient, and they're, you know, there's less smell, so a lot of people who maybe are hesitant about smoking, but they're so much more concentrated. The THC content is so much higher, and you're going to get so much more at once, that if you're not used to smoking, if you're new to it, it's going to be too much.
Yeah.
So I would never recommend, if you're starting smoking, get a pre-roll or something, you know, a pre-roll joint that you can buy, something small like that.
Yeah.
Don't go straight for the vape, because that's going to be too much at once.
And that's the point of this segment, too, is to inform and educate you guys, because, listen, it's coming, and you're going to be finding yourself walking on Broadway and walking into the doors, you will, and you need to know this, because we don't want anybody to, you know, not do the wrong thing, but do something that ruins that potential, you know, benefit of the product. So, you know, that's really good, because we don't need anyone, you know, that's driving around freaking out.
Overdoing it, yeah, you know, because, really, too much THC, it can, like, provoke anxiety attacks
It can.
and everything.
Well,
so
it really can.
It's really something to be careful with. And that's something, too, where if you have CBD, if you ever get too high, taking some CBD can kind of bring you down a little bit.
Whoa, what? No, hold on here.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. No, that's like, if I get too high sometimes when I'm out, I'll get a Moon Drops and drink one of those, and it brings me down a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, the CBD kind of dampens the effects of the THC.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, there are certain instances where it can actually boost the effects, but that's usually That's much more rare.
Okay, I get what you're
like
saying.
that's if you're using them kind of in combination. If you take it later, it will dampen the effects.
I gotcha. So if you do, I get what you're saying. So if you do it all
sorry,
at the same time, no, all good. So if you consume both at the same time, obviously you're going to be hitting Mars by noon. But if you're, if you're,
if you do get too high
and then you use
take
it later,
CBD later, yes, it will dampen the effects.
I really had no idea that was a thing. So we're talking about, consumption methods on this 420 Thursday in downtown Alton with Taralei Griffin, if you're just tuning in. And, a lot of people know about the joint, obviously, and they know about, maybe if they're a vintage hippie, they know about the smoking rocks, and all that stuff. What would you recommend for somebody, let's just say that they're watching now and, they're retired, 50, 60 years old, never have consumed. Would you be recommending like maybe a single use item there? Would you be recommending a joint still? What would your first, breakthrough, or what would your recommendation be for somebody who's interested?
I would say probably a pre-roll would be a good place to start, just because it's already put together. All you got to do is take it out of the package and light it, Otherwise, though, a good option would be just like an eighth of flour and get a small little hand pipe, or
little one hitter or something.
Yeah, a little one hitter, or even like a small bong, little water pipe or something. If you're a little worried about it being too harsh, like some of the water pipes and all can kind of help ease that. So those are a good place to start too, whether you get a little bubbler or a little bong or something.
Okay. Can I ask you about edibles?
Yeah, of course.
Because this is a weird topic. I'm under the impression that if you're a novice, to stay away from said edible.
Yes. Yeah.
You think so too?
Oh yeah. So here's the thing with edibles is they hit the system so much differently than smoking. So like smoking, you're going to have a pretty immediate effect within 5 to 15 minutes. It's going straight into your lungs. With an edible, it has to be processed by your liver before it hits your system. And your liver also processes that so if you're eating a THC edible, it processes the THC into a different form of THC. I believe it's hydroxy-11 is what it's called. And so that form of THC is much more potent, and it clings to fat cells even more easily than THC does. So that's like why a lot of people use butter or something to or oils to infuse edibles, is because it needs fats to cling onto.
Gotcha.
So and so this one though, so that's like edibles. If you're just trying it, edibles are going to stay in your system a lot longer. Like for drug testing, it can stay in your system for up to a month. Okay. Or a little more, just depending, and that's going to depend on a lot of stuff. But whereas smoking, it's really only 3 days if you don't use a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I was always
if you don't use frequently, like someone like me.
What are you trying to say here, Carol?
No, I'm saying for me. I'm talking about myself. Like if I took,
it'd be a lot different. Okay. So,
but no.
So for somebody that's not an everyday smoker, right?
And so it would only be in your system about 3 days.
I did not realize that.
But for with edibles, it's gonna stay in your system a lot longer. And for newer people, it's just so you can't really predict when it's going to hit and how it's going to hit. Everything about how you're going to react to that edible is going to be based on your metabolism that day, how much you've eaten, and it's also going to just, depend on the type of edible, the way it's made, and how strong it is, and there's no predicting. Like some edibles can hit within half an hour, some can hit within 2 to 4 hours, so you just can't really predict. You don't want to take one and then a few hours later be like, it didn't do anything, and then you go out to do something and then it hits all of a sudden. I've had that happen before where I'm like, man, this edible wasn't good at all, and then like a few hours later I'm in the grocery store like, oh my god, what is happening?
You're in Target having a
yeah. So that's, you just want to be cautious. If you did want to, edibles can be a good place to start, especially if you're wanting to go medicinal. I would always recommend, especially if you're concerned about getting too high, too much THC. You can get edibles at the dispensary that are like 1-to-1s is what they would be called. So it's going to have the same amount of CBD as THC in the edible. And so that's going to keep it kind of a balanced high whenever it hits and however it hits. So that'll make it more balanced. And those are really good for pain and everything as well.
Wow. And now I was going to ask you too, and you know a hell of a lot more about this than I do with the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. Edibles before the legalization process really took effect weren't very much weren't really regulated. And I mean, I was watching videos of like the old Rogan podcast where Joey Diaz is bringing in these 500 milligram things. That's not the case anymore, right?
Yeah, no, I still hear so many people talking about, oh, I ate this 1,000 milligram bar of chocolate the other day.
No
and
way.
I'm like, no, tell me you didn't do that. Well, but the thing is too, the way it works, if you're getting a really big dose, like too, a lot of stuff like that, like I've heard stories of people just taking straight isolate to get, and the thing is when you're doing that, especially in like super high amounts, what's actually happening is your endocannabinoid system is getting overloaded. And a lot of that is just going to go to waste because it's going to start hitting your system. And so when you're taking those big amounts and you're bragging about like, I'm taking all this isolate straight or I'm eating all these edibles, like a lot of it's just going through your system. You're just maxing out your system and then the rest of it's going to waste. You're wasting it. You're wasting that weed.
Get with it.
And that's not, it's going to just shoot your tolerance up super high though really fast if you're doing that constantly.
And that's not really a good thing.
No. You don't want to have to get to the point where you're using more and more all the time. Mm-hmm. You want to find the dose that's right for you and kind of stay there. And a good way too to like keep your tolerance low if you're getting into smoking and using it regularly, whether recreationally or medically, it's good to switch up strains. It's good to change up the way you're smoking even. Like, if you're doing joints all the time and you're starting to kind of feel like you're not getting as many effects, then switch to a bong for a bit, or switch to a hand pipe or start incorporating CBD or other cannabinoids into what you're doing. Even I sometimes like to add other herbs to my joints or bowls. Like lavender is really good for sleep. I grew lavender last year in my garden and dried some. And
you were able to grow that stuff?
Yeah. I love plants. I'm
there you go.
Very herb mother. Hey. Yeah, or one thing I really like is rose petals too. My grandpa taught me how to grow roses, and but yeah, those are really good. They have the terpene geraniol, which is really good antidepressant, and and so one thing that I tried a couple years ago that I wish I could do. I found these rose petal cones. So like they're little like pre-rolled blunt cones basically that you pack with the flower. But so it's they were made out of rose petals. And so you smoke it that way. So
how much did that set you back?
I think it was a pack of 4 for like $19.
Oh, okay.
I
was expecting like 10 of.
Yeah, no, it was gosh, I wish I could remember because it was like this women-owned business that I found online and it was really cool. But anyway, no, it wasn't too bad, and it tastes good. And it's just a neat experience. It smells good too, so it's kind of but so adding different herbs, there's an herb called mullein that's like really good for kind of opening up your lungs. So if you struggle with asthma a little bit, that can kind of help.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of things, like if you look into other herbs and all too.
That's actually kind of segued into what I was going to ask you here.
Okay.
Gotta get closer here. The last thing I didn't hit on was tinctures yet, which this is something I've seen like quite a few different things. Just like I've seen the dripper, but now when it comes to the one that's in like a syringe, that's just concentrated in a syringe. Now, is that considered an edible or a tincture at that point, or a concentrate?
That's considered a concentrate, actually.
Okay.
So I think what you're talking about is the RSO oil.
Yes.
So so tinctures are going to be an oil that's you would usually take sublingually.
Okay.
So dropped under your tongue. There are some glands there, so it's not technically considered an edible, or a
gotcha.
topical, because it's but it's going through some glands under your tongue, so it's getting right into your system. So that's where it's a little more efficient than an edible. It doesn't have to deal with your liver. It goes right in your system, hits a lot faster, more efficient. But then RSO oil is actually, it's a concentrate. It's a super, it stands for Rick Simpson oil. So it's super concentrated, mostly used for like cancer or extreme pain patients. So, like that's something that, like, I remember when I was first working at a dispensary before I'd even got my degree, one of the things they taught us was when we're working with patients who are buying RSO oil, you kind of teach them, especially if they're new to it, that they just put a little, like, a rice grain sized bit onto wax paper and then freeze that. And then they just take one of those at a time.
Wow.
And so it's like a super, super highly concentrated. It is going to get you high. And it's going to be pretty intense the first couple times, but it's really good for pain relief. It's something that, like, a lot of cancer patients and extreme severe chronic pain patients use a lot. So so that's more what that's for.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's interesting. Now,
and it is considered a concentrate because it's it's the.
Yeah, I get what
I'm
you're
struggling
saying.
for words. Yeah,
That's
but
okay.
that's
I was gonna trust me. I do this show all the time.
Right.
I just stumble through it. You know what the hell? I wanted to ask you, because there's a lot of people I think they're in this category, and that's they have lung issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, and especially if somebody that, and I know quite a few that are getting off of cigarettes and are trying to find and getting off cigarettes, but still trying to consume cannabis, but they have to stop smoking because all this mucus and everything, it's time to give your lungs a rest. What do you recommend for maybe somebody that, I don't know, let's just say that's in their, early 60s, quit smoking, but is ready to maybe try cannabis and smoking's not an option for them? What would be the best way?
Probably tinctures.
Okay.
Or edibles could be good. But if you're new to it, I would start with a low dose edible.
Okay.
Or a tincture. Either one of those would be a good option that they're not going to affect your lungs. And I think that'd be the best place to start.
There you go. Did we talk about all the different methods?
I think so. I didn't really talk about vaping. You can get cartridges and all too, but that's, there's just a lot of different inhalation options. I know there's even at some dispensaries you can get like, there are sprays that you could spray into your mouth. So it would be similar to a tincture, but you just spray it into your mouth. I know some actually sell inhalers. So it's there's all sorts of different options, and I know just at the end of 2021 I did a road trip out west, and my friend was getting married in Vegas, and I wasn't ready to get on a plane yet, so I decided I was going to drive and make it a whole big road trip, and I drove through. I hit dispensaries in every legal state that I went to, and it was wild. Some of the new products I saw and everything. Like it's and out west they've been around a lot longer. They've got a lot more going on. So it's but yeah, it's just there's so many different things. Just talk to your bud tenders. They're generally pretty well trained. They might not. Most bud tenders don't have quite as much information as maybe they should from my own experience working in dispensaries, but they are trained very well. They work with these products. Most of them use these products. Talk to them and they'll help you get you on the right track, and they might know more about products that are new there or that might be good for what you're dealing with.
Or you can stop into Moon Drops throughout the week and talk to Taralei and pick up some Moon Drops while you're at it.
Oh yeah, no, that's people come in and just ask me questions all the time at this point. So come on in. We're over on Market Street, and I'm always happy to answer questions and help people out. So.
There you go. How are you going to be consuming today to celebrate?
Oh, well, after work, I will definitely be smoking mini blunts. And I might roll over to, I heard that High Point is doing a special 420 menu, and I've actually never been there. So I feel like once I close the shop, maybe I'll roll over there, get some food, and come back and get very, very high and eat a lot of food.
Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
10:53. There's some ways for you guys to consume cannabis, and for the first timers out there, some great starting blocks, I think. Taralei Griffin, 10:53 on this 420. It's a Thursday in the heart of the Riverbend. A quick break. The All-Star Award. Well, that's next.